Okay, so we're done with videos numbers 1, 2, and 3. Remember, do the work. I'm sorry, watch the video, do the work, watch the next video, do the work, watch the next video. If you watch all the videos and then go back and do the work, you're going to forget something. But of course, you can always you can do the work and then go back and double check to make sure you did everything. But make sure you're doing it right. Make sure you're thinking about it as you're doing it. With this building, remember, we've got it in a landscape already. The building itself is in what we call the middle ground, which is half of the distance from right at the bottom of the page to the horizon line. About half of the distance in the middle. That's why it's called the middle ground. It starts there in the middle ground and it continues to the middle ground. This is the far middle ground in this specific picture, but it depends on how high or how low your eye level is, your horizon line is, where you place things on the ground for aerial perspective. So a couple reminders too. When we decided to put the peak, when I decided we're going to put the peak of the roof on this side, it's kind of a V shape here. The middle of it's going to be right here, and that's in the middle of this wall, right, from this end to this end. So to find the middle of it, we just went from corner to corner. We drew a little X in at where they meet up is the middle of the wall from here to here is the same as this distance from here to here if we were looking straight on that wall. It's called the optical center, okay? So now we're going to figure out how tall can this peak be, and it's going to be going the same direction, as the top of the house, and going in the distance to this vanishing point over here. So we want to make sure that our house's roof clears this back edge. If we put it down too low, then it's going to be right at the corner of it. So we're going to lift it up a little bit, making it a little higher. We could even put a second story in this house if we put it up high enough. So I want to put the vanishing point, my pencil on the vanishing point, and I see that I've got a good distance from this corner to my ruler's edge. It looks kind of high here, but that's because of the view that we've got of this specific house. Now I'm just drawing my line all the way across until it gets to that vertical line that I drew that's right above, straight up above that X from corner to corner of that side of the face. Now on this side, we're going to come downward too. So this is the top edge of the roof. We're going to come down. We don't see the other side of that roof's edge, but we do see the back edge of the roof, and it has some overlap from the top of the roof to the top of this face of the building. There's a little overlap for like the rain and the snow to not fall against the walls of the building. So it's called the eaves of the roof. So we're going to put in the little space from the box to the eaves of the roof line, and we're going to bring it down below that corner where the top meets up with the side edge, and that little edge there is going to go back to this vanishing point here. This is the bottom of the roof, and it goes to the same vanishing point that the top of the roof and the top of the box went to. So we're going back in space, and it just goes to there, right? We need to have it there, otherwise its believability breaks down. Now we're going to draw in this corner that's the side edge too of the roof, and it needs to overlap the front edge just like this overlapped the back edge, but it's off-lapped there and it's going to be overlapped here. So we're going to come from this corner and down, overlapping a little bit more than the distance from here to here, from here to there. All right, so because it's closer to us, the distance needs to be more. So the angle is going to be a little different from the left-hand side for the right-hand side. All right, so notice it cut off that corner a little bit. Now the distance from here to that line needs to be a little less than it is from here to this line. So this looks pretty good right there where it's meeting up at that corner, but it could be a little higher, it could be a little lower. Maybe I'll bring it a little lower just to make it obvious that it's not necessarily related to the corner of the building. All right, so I'm bringing it down a little bit more. All right, so that's the lower edge, that's our eaves. So we don't even see this edge of the building, but we need it to put in the back edge of the top of the roof. And the back edge is going to be parallel to the front edge. So if it's at this angle at the front, it needs to be at that angle at the back, and it's being overlapped here, so we need to overlap it here too, so it doesn't cut off that corner, right? It's just not as much. So we're going to make sure it's at the same angle, as we move it back, don't let it go crooked, let it overlap it a little bit, and we go from the top of the roof to the bottom of the roof. So my overlap is pretty close to that line, but it's not bad. So the next step on this is to erase all the lines that don't belong to the roof. So I went a little higher than I needed to there. I get rid of my guidelines. Don't erase the horizon line, but get rid of the guidelines that go beyond it. We didn't use any of the any lines going to this vanishing point because they're all parallel to that vanishing point. We get rid of this line that helped us to find the center where the peak of the roof goes to. We don't need it, so we're going to erase that, and we're going to erase this corner of the building that's hidden by the roof of the building. We don't see it. Now we might have shingles that would fall in alignment with that line, but we're not going to deal with that in this. But if you want a building with shingled roof in your final drawing, then that might be one way that you work that line in place. We're going to leave that line there for the time being. There's one last step here for this roof. From this corner here, we need to draw a line that's parallel to this outer edge where it meets up with the wall. Right now there's no wall there. It's all roof, so it looks like we could jump this wall and get inside the building. We can't do that. Let's put in the back edge. I'm sorry, the edge where the roof meets up with the building, and it goes right here parallel to that one, and it disappears behind the front edge there. So make sure you erase everything really well. I didn't do that really well with mine just for speeding this up for you guys, but make sure you do really good erasings to get rid of it. So once again, this line is parallel, this line that I drew right there is parallel to this outer edge line, right? So make sure that they are. And you don't need to do it on this side because it's hidden by the roof. Now we could put the thickness of the wood and the tile and all of that stuff on the roof too. We don't need to do that for this practice, but when we get to a real building, we would do all of that stuff too. We would put framing around the windows, around the door, all of that stuff. Let's go ahead and put a porch on our building now. So we want to make it look like it's about a step up. So I'm going to bring a vertical line about right here. Okay, so that's going to be the top of my porch where I can stand on. So I'm going to be bringing a line above the bottom of the building, above that line there, to make a step up. Okay, now I don't need to draw it all the way to the vanishing point. I'm going to start it right about that point, and I'm just going to drag it there. So now I've got some idea of where the back edge is against the wall. Now the front edge of it is going to go down from the wall, and it could be right in alignment with the window and the doorway, and it's going to come out from that. So here's how I'm going to leave it like that. It could be different, but I'm going to leave it like that. So from this vanishing point, we're going to make a box. It comes outward there, and from this point where it meets up with the edge of the door, where that line that went there meets up with it, I'm going to line that up with that vanishing point, and I'm going to draw a line out this way too. So I've got two lines coming out from the doorway, the width of the door. Now it could be wider. Like I said, I could have made it this much farther out to make the porch really wide, but it needs to be at least as wide as the doorway is. Okay, so we're just kind of simplifying things for this work. And then we need to have a front corner that's parallel to the side edges of the building because it's on the ground that the building's on. So we want to make sure that it's parallel to it. I'm going to make it a little shallower than this one, the distance from here to here less than this line. That way it won't look a little weird when you look at it. And then from where this meets up with this, I'm going back to that vanishing point. So this is like this corner of the building, this little corner right here. This corner is like this back edge here. This line is like the top. This line is like the bottom, right? So we want to go from this point where those two come together to the vanishing point at the right, to make the front face of the porch, and it goes to that line right there. And where this line meets up with the sidewalk, or the walkway, sorry, we're going to draw a line in that goes to the sidewalk at the back. And now these two should line up. If they don't, something didn't work. Something isn't quite right. So they should be parallel to this edge here, going straight up and down. So this is the box for the porch. And just like with the others, I want you to erase all the lines that don't belong. So when you're erasing, you're going to get rid of the bottom of the door that we don't see. It's not really there, right? The bottom of the building. We can't see it through the porch. I want you to erase the bottom edge that's hidden by the surface of the porch. Let me do this real quick and then I'll get out of the way. I'm getting rid of all the extra lines that don't belong, including on the wall that helped us to draw it. And then I did erase a few parts that I needed to keep, so I'm going to redraw them using my ruler so that they're still nice and straight. I'm going back to that vanishing point to draw in these edges once again, and to this vanishing point to draw these edges. So there's our front porch. It's really tiny. It's not really utilitarian, but it's a good place to start. We want to make sure that this line too, where the step meets up with the wall of the house, is still there too. All right, because it's not a part of the house. So do all those steps to this point. Erase all your extra lines that don't belong, and then when you're all done with that, go to your next one, which is number 4, and we're going to put a tree in the foreground, a tree in the middle ground, and we'll put in the back edges of the street too.